So you moved to Greeley?
Okay, yeah, we were only there 9 months, but I did enter, and I was a prize student at University of Northern Colorado because I chose to major in preschool education. Don't know where it came from, but I was the only guy in my one class, and my teacher was just thrilled to see a man want to go into education of preschool kids because it was so badly needed. And of course, I got A's, but I was only there 2 quarters. But I learned a lot. Again, my habit was put homework off until the night before it's due and go to the library and study a lot. Did that, learned a lot. Learned how to be a bartender. I was hired by the manager of, it was called the Red Steer Inn. And the Red Steer Inn was the lounge for an overall full-service restaurant called Farm Fare. And it had a coffee shop with a counter and booths, and then it had a big dining room. I mean, it was a serious restaurant. And it was opened and still owned by a German fellow who had come to Colorado as a prisoner of war during World War II, and upon liberation decided he'd had enough of Germany, and he actually loved Colorado so much he came back and built up this restaurant. So I learned how to make drinks. It was rocky at first. I was told by one disappointed customer that that could gag a post office. I don't know what that meant. Jeannie always got a kick out of that. So I remember once a cowboy came in with spurs on, and he was doing it just to agitate, of course. And we had a brand new woman bar manager. I think her name was Danny. It was a feminized version of a male name, so I think it was Danny, D-A-N-I. But she very tactfully approached him and said, "Please, sir, I mean, we have customers here," because it was a busy place, and we don't want anyone getting hurt. So would you please remove your spurs? And he took them off his belt or his boot, and he put them around his bicep, just above his elbow, just to be a smartass. But it had live music. It had live third-rate country bands that worked the state or the region. I know we had the big name that everyone was excited about that I'd never heard of was a guy named Buddy Allen, and supposedly he was Buck Owens' son. I never bothered to look that up. I should. But I got fired from that job because oftentimes I was the only bartender, and there are a lot of waitresses, not a lot, but sometimes when they'd get off their shift, which would end at 9 or 10 o'clock, they'd come and have a couple, and we'd talk a lot. And I remember staying late with this one server, and we both were drinking, which nobody ever told me I couldn't do. But because I was also the service bartender, there was a little partition, maybe about 18 inches high and a foot wide. And then the servers from the dining room would come to that partition, and I would see what they needed for their table. So anyway, it was closed, but I remember turning around because this woman, first of all, she was heartbroken because she had just broken up with her boyfriend, but she was kind of complaining about her job and complaining about people on the job and stuff like that. And I probably was trying to be a big, sympathetic ear, but I remember turning around and noticing there was a shadow that moved on the other side of that wooden partition. And I come to find, we went home for Christmas, so there was like a 1 week break there. came back and learned I didn't have a schedule. I kind of figured out it was because the manager had overheard us, and he probably thought we were bad-mouthing everything and just decided, there's other people that want to be a bartender. I don't know. So that means I was unemployed. All these places that I got jobs at Sharbert's and stuff, I was unemployed now for the first quarter of, that would have been 73. And we lived in Windsor. Windsor had one traffic light, and that was brand new, because it was a cow town on the prairie that it just announced Eastman Kodak Company was building a huge plant out there. They thought they better get traffic lights at least. So Jeannie and I are there. Jeannie's working, driving into Greeley, about 15 miles away. I'm spending a lot of time when she's at work. I go into Fort Collins because it was another college town. It was 10 miles away, and Greeley was a cow town. Fort Collins was starting to be a mountain town. And you could see the difference in the students too. It wasn't Boulder, but it was the next thing to Boulder. And it was so neat because there was this bookstore there, full service bookstore, located in what had been the main office of a local bank. And all of the esoteric stuff was in what had been the vault. It was sort of like Starbucks here in Bexley. The door of the vault was still there intact. And I spent a lot of time there because there were just so many great books there. It was just a good town and stuff. Or else I'd drive up. I wouldn't go high into the mountains. I'd drive up into the foothills. It was a place I liked to stop. And then Jeannie and I camped up there a couple of times. That's when I hiked up to the base of Long's Peak. And our campground was kind of chaotic the night that somebody said, "There's a bear." I opened up the sliding door of the Volkswagen, and I'll never forget, Jeannie got in, and then Nelson jumped up, the sheepdog, and Nelson gave me, from looking at him behind and watching him scramble, barely could reach the floor of the rear section of the Volkswagen. It looked like he was well aware there was a bear. He didn't need to be reminded, and he just needed to get up in that seat before I did. So we spent the night sleeping in the Volkswagen. We had a lot of fun there, but the sad thing is Jeannie's mother's cancer turned for the worse, and she just did not want to waste another day. And so we moved back to Columbus, where she knew she could get a job easily enough, and I could go back to Ohio State, which is exactly what I did. I am not sure I even bothered to transfer the 2 quarters I earned at Northern Colorado, because this was the tail end of my college career. It was from 73, a year and a half later is when I graduated, and I decided I'm going to be a lawyer. And so it doesn't matter what I major in, I'm going to major in philosophy. And I did that. And had a bit of an academic spasm. I go spring, summer, fall, winter, spring quarters. So I went 5 quarters in a row, taking the electives and mostly philosophy classes. And they were challenging, but I enjoyed learning them and stuff. And I went the first half. No, I went all of summer quarter. So I only had 1 quarter left to go, fall quarter, but I didn't finish summer quarter. I had given up. I was so disillusioned with it. And I actually applied for a job as an orderly at the Columbus State Hospital, which is no longer in existence. But it was this ancient 18th or 19th century institution for mental retardation that stood at the hilltop on West Broad, right across the street of an equally Gothic-looking hospital that was even taller, and that was what we ended up calling it officially. It was COPH, yeah, Central Ohio Psychiatric Institute. But, you know, between the two of them, they were just gruesome looking places. But I was so disillusioned with education, I just didn't want to do it anymore. And, you know, Jeannie tried to talk me out of it. And somehow between the end of summer quarter, which I thought, I didn't officially take any incompletes, or maybe I did. But again, you had 4 weeks there between summer and fall. And Jeannie, or somebody, I finally was convinced, this is crazy. I'm getting paid to do this by the VA. I only got 1 quarter to go. I can do anything, you know, in the next 12, 13 weeks. Came to it was the best quarter academically I'd ever done, summer. I thought I was throwing it all away and just getting all Fs. My existentialism teacher, Ivan Bowe, sweet little man that he was, gave me an A. And this is all stuff that kind of like sat on his desk for a couple weeks. And the other courses I'd gotten good enough grades, I don't know why I didn't realize it, or maybe I did. Maybe I realized I got these good grades. I just don't want to do it. But I graduated December of 1974. My grandfather accompanied my mom, and we attended ceremonies at St. John Arena. That's where the winter graduates always were. My dad could not attend because he had just learned that he had a tumor in his colon, and he was in the hospital. So,